Well, good evening, friends. Today I'm going to try yet again to record me coding a so-called Atlassian Froge application. I've tried this a couple times before, but each time something went horribly wrong and I wasn't able to finish it. So this time I'm going to try it again, and the big difference this time is that I actually sat down yesterday and tried to document most of the steps required, just to make sure that I get it working while doing this. So I've open sourced this repository, Jira custom field demo. You can find it on my GitHub, and I'll put a link in the description as well. What we're going to do today is build a custom field in Jira. A custom field is something where we can put information in details, as an example. What we're going to do today, at least we're going to try to do it, is create an Atlassian Froge application that inserts pizza toppings as an option here, where we will be able to select one or more pizza toppings, and these pizza toppings will be grabbed from an external API outside of Atlassian Cloud. I will be using simple Azure functions, but in practice this would be something else, and you will most likely not have pizza toppings, but it's a simple example, so we'll run with that today. All right, let's see. Before we begin, we should create an Azure function. So let's create the function, and we will do something simple with that one. We'll use a consumption app. That's fine with me. Let's call it Froge demo, and I will be doing TypeScript. Let's put it in Sweden, and of course we'll use Linux, and that should be enough for now. So now we're creating that. Let's create, let's see if I can remember the commands for creating this. Make their pizza toppings API, and here we should be able to do something like want to create a new node using TypeScript. And I've since a long time before installed the Func CLI. That's the Azure Functions CLI. So we'll give it a few seconds to install. It looks like it's ready. So let's browse there. Give it a few more seconds. Alright, we want an HTTP trigger, get pizza toppings. Alright. Let's see if we can deploy something simple here. Get pizza toppings. And the get pizza toppings should look something like, oh, we should do some zoom here. Let's go there. Yeah. So in my case, I only want to do get. I want to use function, and I won't use the handler correctly, but let's call that v1 pizza toppings. So that should be /API/v1/pizza toppings, and then we want to return a simple response. So let's say status 200 JSON body items. We want to do items like ID, it should be a pizza topping 001, and name should be pepperoni, correct. And let's see if our beautiful Copilot can give us some great names. It could, but it didn't want to give me all of them at the same time. That's just too bad, but that's quite fine. I've already documented one way to do this, so perhaps we just should copy that. We have a pizza topping, we have pizza toppings as an array. We have 33 of them, and let's do that. Pizza toppings. All right. To get this deployed, we need to do something like npm run build, I think. And then we should be able to do func publish. Let's see if that works. And it will hopefully deploy a new HTTP trigger like that. Thank you. And we should be able to take a look at that function. Get pizza toppings and test. We should be able to get function URL. Something like that. Curl JQ. Yeah. So in this case we get all the pizza toppings. And just to make sure, yeah, we have pineapple. That's important. All right. Well, then we have the extremely hardcore API. Now let's get started with the Atlassian Froge application. In my case, I've already installed the Froge CLI, and I've also logged on to it. And I've also logged on to ngork, which is required to use the tunnel functionality in this CLI. Let's see. Froge create. And we want to call this pizza toppings. In this case, I will choose the UI kit, choose Jira and Jira custom field. I'm not sure, is it Jira or Jira? I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And this will take perhaps a minute. So while that is running, we can close down that one. We can go back here. So after we've created this application, we will convert it from JavaScript to TypeScript, mostly because I'm much more familiar with TypeScript, so that's what I'm good at, especially when it gives me the hints about the types. And we will also set up testing using Vitest. It's still being set up, so let's give it a couple of more seconds. It's installing the dependencies. Alright, we're done. Let's go into pizza toppings and let's work from here. And if we start from here, we can do something like, let's zoom, and then I will just make sure that we have a Git repository. There we go. And the first thing we need to do is just to rename GSX to TSX. So let's do that. TSX. And then we need to create a TS config. I actually don't think we need all of this. It's just what I've been able to get working. So and I think this one is especially important. I think that was for like the case where Vitest wasn't able to do tests for React or something like that. And we need to rename the resources in the manifest as well to TSX. Now it should be converted, and if this was everything we wanted to do, this would most likely just work. We can try this. Let's do Froge deploy. And since I'm already logged in, the application has been registered. We can most likely find the application in my developer console. Here we go. We have pizza toppings. And it should be running lint and then packaging everything and deploying it. And it seems like this Forge tool works quite well with TypeScript. So I'm not sure if anything else actually is needed, but this has been working for me at least. And when that's done, we can do Forge install. And we install it to Jira. And I enter my awesome name. And if I didn't have like the admin privileges on Jira, I wouldn't be able to do this, and then I would have to do the deploy to staging and then production, and then I would have to go into the distribution part of my application. So when it's deployed to production, I can enable sharing, like check a few things of these. And after that, I would be able to check Jira here, and then I could copy a link that an administrator could use to install it. And it seems like these Forge apps are at least free for the whole of next year as well, but most likely in the future we will see them, some kind of pricing model for them at least. But that's fine. Let's go into here and just see what we have. So when we configure this, we should be able to see pizza toppings here. And if we save that, we should be able to see at least something here. So now we should be able to see pizza toppings and hello world. And this pizza toppings thing is just plain text field at the moment. We will change this, but we can change it to like say hello Simon. And if we clear it, it will go back to hello world. Alright. We've now made sure that we've been able to create the template, we've deployed it, we've installed it, we've converted it to TypeScript. That's fine. Now I want to be able to run some tests, and I've been using Vitest for this. I think I tried to get Jest working with these Forge apps, but but I didn't succeed. Vitest was much easier to get started with, so I just used that. So we install the Vitest and the Vitest coverage v8. And then we just add these 2 lines to the scripts part of the package.json. So let's give it a few seconds here. So we can add the test and the test watch while it's installing. And we can ignore the coverage folder, so it's from there, and we can create a dummy test just to make sure that it's working. So let's go to front end, edit.test.tsx. Let's wait for it to finish up. Alright, that's finished. And now we should be able to run npm run test. And we can at least see the tests finishing, but we don't have any coverage since we're not testing anything. But that's good. We've enabled the tests. We've verified that it works. Just an FYI, it seems like when using this template at least, we have React here. There's a bug with custom field and using select for some reason, and I will show you the bug later, but the select with a drop down. So when the drop down won't show all the items in the list, it will like be cut. So when using an older UI kit version 1 or something like that, I actually get it to work, but then React wasn't added here. So I added React as a dev dependency just to get Vitest working. We've already done the function. So now we need to configure the manifest. And the first thing we need to do is to change a few things here. So in this case, we have a string and we have like these names. In this case, we have pizza toppings, and pizza toppings there is this value or this description. Well, not description, it's the name, and we want that to be better. I think the key in this case is like where it's being stored in the issue and a description of it, and then it's using the type string. We'll change from string to an object. So I'm just copying in that. So we have a new name, a new key, and we have an expression to how to print these items. I'm actually not sure exactly what this formatter is necessary for, but the linter screams if we don't have it at least. Then we have the schema for the object and the properties of the schema, and in this case we have the object items, and then we have the type of this object is an array, and the items of the array are objects as well that contain the ID and name, and we say that required is items, and it's actually the first one here. Items here is just a part of the description of the object or the array. So if we change, we actually need to change a couple of more things in here. So let's check that out. In our case, we want to be able to fetch the information from an external backend. That means that we need to give permission for the function to do that. And we also need to add a function and a resolver that uses that function. So let's do these things. Let's copy the permissions part. Like that, and we'll fix exactly what it is. And then we need to add the resolver as well. Like that. So we have a resolver that's using function, and it's pointing here. Now we should also curl, we have Froge demo. So let's use that name here, like that. Let's save that, and now we need to create this resolver. To set up this resolver, we also need to install a couple of other dependencies. So I'm just going to add these dependencies. Then we need to create the source index. Let's create that one. And we will need to create the resolvers index. Resolvers index and the tests as well. Like that. And just to save a bit of time while doing this, I'm going to cheat and just copy some of this code. So in this case, we do it like that. So we export handler from resolvers, and then we go into resolvers, and in this case we do it like that. Let's not copy all of that code, but let's do something like, yeah, let's do that. Let's make that a bit simpler. And we have to write some code at least. Yeah, let's start with that. And let's skip the tests for now as well. All right. So let's remove the tests. We can do them later. Okay. So now we have this get pizza toppings, and we should be able to call it in some way. Let's just do something like this. Let's return items, and from here we return ID PTC01, name pepperoni. Yeah, sure. Let's do a couple of others like that. So before we start using the external API, let's just return something from here. And then we can get started with the external API in a while. Right. And I think I've also, in the README, said that we should add the monads package. Let's see here. Yeah, and that's because I like it. So let's add that one as well. So we have right now two files that we can work with. We have the edit, we have index. Index is the one displaying the field in this view, so it's the one here. And we have edit, and that's the one when we press it, the pop-up, and we want to change this to to be dropped down with the different pizza toppings. So how do we do this? Well, the first thing we should do is we should get the current value that's set. And let's see, or in this case, we shouldn't only have one value, we should have multiple values. So we have the context extensions field value, that's from the context of this thing, and that contains the information. It will be empty to begin with, but we should be able to do something like this. Let's say const pizza toppings, set pizza toppings. And perhaps let's say we want to be kind to ourselves. So we want to create pizza toppings.ts here. And pizza toppings will contain, let's say, we'll export everything. Interface pizza topping, and it will contain an ID and a name. Then we will have export interface pizza toppings, and that will contain items pizza topping. And like that, yeah. And now perhaps we would like to also make sure that we have a function that can validate these. And let's not invent it ourselves. Let's take this one that I wrote yesterday. And that will also require us to use the monads. Like that. And now we should be able to write a couple of tests, because in this case we're checking that response isn't empty. That perhaps we shouldn't call that response, let's call that input. So we check that input isn't empty or null or undefined. We check that it has items, that items is an array, and that items is of length greater than 0. Or we check that if it's 0, then we should return an error. Then we iterate through the entries. We check that each entry has an ID and a name, and that ID and name are strings. And if we see an error, we will return a monad result. Since we're using a result pizza toppings string here, we'll return the error string. The same thing here. And if everything is okay, we will just return okay. And then okay will be pizza toppings. And let's create the pizza toppings test.ts. And we import describe test expect each from by-test. I think that's how you do it. Perhaps that's not each. Right. Each was wrong. Now we can write a test that verifies this. And I usually like the matrix tests. So I usually do something like this: const cases equals, and then we have input null expected. That's not, yeah. Perhaps we should set the types here as well. So we have the cases, and let's type like that. We have input, expected, and let's see what we description. Yeah, a description for it as well. Oh, that's wrong. Like that. And expected should be of this type. And now we need to import these as well. And we also need to import pizza toppings, of course, like that. So we add the description, should return R. Let's skip that. Input, should return R when the input is null. Let's start there, and then we can do the test like test.each description, and we have description input expected, check pizza toppings, and we need to import checked pizza toppings. Let's run the tests again. All right. So we have a test for the pizza toppings now. That's great. Let's do a watch for that. And let's save the test and just verify pizza toppings. Right. Let's see if dear Copilot would like to add a couple more. It would. Null and undefined. Yeah. Items. Yes. Items null. Yes. Yeah. That seems all right. And let's add another one. Description. Let's say should return error when the input has multiple items where the second one is invalid. Like that. Yeah, sure. Let's see if that works. It seems to be working, so let's use this. That's fine. Now we have pizza toppings, set pizza toppings. We would now like to validate. So instead of doing it this way, I would like to do it like this. And I don't want to do set field value anymore. I want to do current something like that, and const result, and we do check pizza toppings, current pizza toppings, or perhaps we could do it like this. That's even easier. We have the result, and if the result is okay, we want to set the pizza toppings like that. And pizza toppings should be pizza toppings or null. Let's set that to null by default. So if the result is okay, we unwrap the result and insert it. If we don't have any pizza toppings, then we should return something like none. But if we have pizza toppings, then we should do something like tag group. Let's see if we imported that. Yeah, for React, that's all right. Tag group. And exactly, we want to, why is it complaining here? Let's see, key prop, oh yeah. Text, we shouldn't use tag and tag. And we should use tag there instead. And tag wants something like text. Let's see here, add key to the iterator. Key topping dot name. Right. Let's call it ID and let's do something like topping dot ID and then topping dot name. Let's see if we deploy this. Deploy. We will most likely have to do install as well, so, and upgrade it because we've changed so much. But what we do now is that we grab the field value and check that it's a pizza topping and return a result. And the result is a monad that's either pizza toppings or an error. So OK pizza toppings or error string. And we check that it's OK, and then we can unwrap it. If we try to unwrap an error, we will throw an error as well. If pizza toppings are null, which it will be by default, we will show none. If we have pizza toppings, then we'll create a tag group and a tag for each pizza topping. And let's do Froge install upgrade as well. Yes, please, upgrade. So let's see what happened. So now, hopefully, we need to re-add it because we have a new name. It's now pizza toppings. And if we go here, we should see none. If we open it, it should just show this, and now we shouldn't be able to do anything here. If we try to add Simon, it should fail because it's not a correctly formed object. So let's go to the edit part. So how do we edit this then? Well, the first step would be to actually, when we press on pizza toppings, we want to invoke the external API, or the resolver in this case. So we would like to use the invoke function from bridge. So if we do invoke and we do get pizza toppings, then we want to do something with that result. Should we print that to the console? Yeah, sure. Let's try that. Perhaps not. So what we do here is we get the pizza toppings and we should insert that somewhere. So let's do const pizza toppings, and let's do pizza toppings or null, and make that null by default. Let's call that pizza toppings, set pizza toppings, and we should also create one for the current pizza toppings, and set current pizza toppings like that. Yeah. All right. And where are we using render context right now? We're using render context over there to differentiate between issue view and everything else. And this is issue view. But if we do like create and choose task here, we should also be able to see pizza toppings from here. So they are different. So if we get the result, we should most likely do something like const result, let's call that data. Result equals check pizza toppings. Let's import check pizza toppings. If it's okay, we shouldn't set current. That should be something else. Yeah. Or perhaps we should just do like this. So if it fails, it should actually throw, which this will do. And then we should also do something like in here. We want to use that context here as well, but we want to do const result exactly, and if it's okay, we want to set the current pizza toppings to that. That's all right. Okay, so when someone submits the data, let's come back to that in a bit. So what do we want to do now? Well, we don't want to have a text field. So let's change this one to choose your topping. And it's a bit boring, but we also have to change it over here. So if we don't have any pizza toppings, we should return a spinner like that. Let's see if we, yeah, that works. So if pizza toppings isn't set, we should return spinner. And if we do have pizza toppings, we want to use the select. Oh, let's do it. Select, and we want to register but we don't want to do all this. We want to do it like that. And let's call that items, or perhaps selected items. Yeah, sure. And is multi should be set to true. Is clearable should also be set to true. And then we want to add the options. These are the items that can be selected. Const pizza topping options. And the label should be first, and then we want to have the full, so the label shouldn't be just name, it should be something like topping, yeah. So we want to have the ID and the name, and the value should be both of them. And we insert that there. And then we should be able to do the same here. And perhaps we should write it like selected items like that. Selected items. Now when we submit, we should be able to send what's been submitted like this. Data. And if, let's see here, not current, if data doesn't contain selected items or selected items, let's make sure that we check everything, if not data or data selected items, or it, so if data is undefined or null, if selected items is undefined or null, and if the length is 0, then we should return. We shouldn't just return, we should also await. So we should actually clear the value, which will be done like this. Because null is okay. I think let's just check back how I did that last time. Yeah, just return submit null. That's okay. We can do something like this. Finally, set loading false. And yeah, we should also do one more thing here. We can come back to that in a bit. We want to have the default items for the drop down should be selected. So if we already have items there. So now we should have selected items. That's great. Now let's const result check pizza toppings, something like that. And we actually can't do it like that because we won't have we will do const selected items should be yeah, exactly, we want to extract the values from them. And then we want to do const let's see, what else do we want to do? We should do this in the try catch. So we should do it like that. Then we should do const result. equals check pizza toppings, and like that. Now we have the result. We should do something like yeah, we should throw the error. Otherwise we should it will throw anyway, so let's just do it like this. Now we should have result unwrap like that. If it's an error, it will throw, and we will catch it here. So let's see how that works. And my computer will like eat all my memory when I do this, but let's try it. Forge tunnel. So it should be able to tunnel the traffic to my computer. Yeah. All right. Let's see what happens. So pizza toppings, none. If we press that, we see nothing, of course. Let's refresh everything. Spinner, choose your topping. And this is the bug. We don't see everything here. We can search for things if we want to, but we can choose pepperoni, submit, and we should see the tag with pepperoni. But now we have an issue where we don't see pepperoni being selected by default, and we are able to clear it, so it should be able to go back to none there. So we need to do const default pizza topping values, and that should be something like let's say pizza toppings or null, and make it null by default. If we have pizza toppings, then default let let's see here, pizza toppings, let's do that as pizza topping. Let's see, default items. Okay, let's just do it like that. Let default pizza toppings. Something like that then. And we have the label and the value. And default value like that. Default value like that. Let's see if it reloads. And if we press none, we should be able to select something, submit it. And now if we press it again, it should already be selected. There seems to be an issue where we can select the same thing multiple times here. I haven't looked into that. When using the older version of the drop-down, it seems to be working much better. Let's see, are there any other? Appearance. is searchable, key menus open name. I'm not sure if there is a way to fix that, but when using the older UI kit, this isn't actually a problem, but it seems like we have 2 bugs here. But we can submit both of them. We should see both of them there. Choose your topping. We can remove one, and it should be working. So that's all right. Let's close down the tunnel before my computer blows up. So now we have done the most part of the code. It's not beautiful, but it seems to be working at least. Now we would like the resolver to actually not return something static, but instead use something better. So let's do const, and I think we can use, let's see here, AP. What did I do last time? Give me a second. API.fetch, all right. Const response, await API.fetch, and we want to fetch const API URL equals process.env.API URL. So we want to grab that from from the environment, and if that doesn't work, perhaps we should do something like return error. Then we do the fetch to the API URL, and if it's not okay, let's do that. We want to extract the data, and we want to do const result, check pizza toppings of data. If there's an error, if result.isR, we want to unwrap the error, otherwise we want to return everything like that. When using the local, so we need to set a variable. We need to do it like this, but we can also export the variable locally to begin with. So let's start with that. Curl. Let's just copy this and paste and set. And while we're at it, we can set the variable there as well. Oh. That's not going to work, most likely. Let's do that correctly. So we're using the Froge API to set an environment variable. We would need to do that for each of the environments. But that should mean that if we do that from here, export Froge tunnel, start the tunnel, we should most likely be able to see that something happens. And perhaps we should be smart here and like do console.log data fetched successfully. Let's just unwrap it here as well. Const pizza toppings and log that and return that. And perhaps we should do let that run for a bit. And let's see what happens. So now we should be able to go in here. Should be able to see if it's able to fetch. It's just loading. All right. Perhaps we need to reload everything. Let's see what happens now. We have pizza toppings. Try to open it. Doesn't do a thing. All right. Let's stop that. Let's see what's happening. Oh. So we have the API URL here. Process and API URL. Yeah, that's good. If the response is no okay, we return the error. If we are unable to unwrap it, we return our error. We should try to log the error here. Let's see if it down redirects request. Yes. So let's see what happens. My memory is being computer memory is having issues, but let's see if we see any errors from here. Now everything should be really slow for me, but let's see what happens. We will go into that one and right, promise, cannot unwrap OK. Value of result R. Is R? From where is it saying that? Edit 22. Edit 22. It's being really slow on my computer, so let's do a deploy again just to make sure that it wasn't just my computer being really slow or something weird like that. Let's see here. So when we do the edit, I'm not using that one anymore. It's packaging up everything. So let's see what happens. It's being uploaded. It's being deployed. Alright. It's been deployed. Let's see what happens. I had this issue yesterday when setting everything up. And the weird thing was that it just started working after a while. But something is still happening here. Let's see. In promise. Unwrap. So we have edit line 22. My computer is really complaining right now. But let's hope we can solve the last part here. So edit 22. We looked at that before. And cannot unwrap. If result is okay, unwrap. Okay. Invoke pizza toppings. We're unable to unwrap here. So yeah, that's because if let's do something like that. If not data or data.error, then we should look at that error and log console error. And why is it complaining? It does not exist on. Let's see. If data dot and data dot error. We can't do that. Annie. Then we should print the error. And return. And then we should be able to tunnel the traffic to see what happens. So if we get an error, we shouldn't send it to here. We should just, and we shouldn't try to unwrap it, because we know there's an error here. So let's see what happens. So we press here. We can see that it's being invoked, but nothing happens. All right. Let's try to kill my computer using the console. See what happens when we press here. Uncaught in promise. Cannot unwrap OK value from result error. Well, I thought we had changed that. Still the same. Let's get it. We go into the issue. And we try to open it. Failed to fetch data. Okay. Let's take a look at what's going on. We have the function URL here. Let's see. Oh. Export. Forge user API URL. Curl forge user var API URL. That doesn't work. Okay, and I now can see why it doesn't work, because it has escaped stuff. There we go. Now set. Had we escaped? Yeah, we had escaped things here as well. So let's remove these escaped characters. And deploy. That's my bad. I actually did the same thing yesterday, and it took me a couple of tries to get that working. So the issue was in my console, when I paste something, it escapes like the question marks and things like that. So let's upload and deploy. See if this works. Let's give it a couple of seconds. All right, there we go. What happens now? Nothing at all. Let's refresh everything. Let's open the issue. And let's look at it. Come on. Yeah, there we go. And we can choose meatball instead. And mushrooms, eggplant. And we can see that we still have them here. If we choose pepperoni, we can see them here. But pepperoni is selectable, which is weird. It shouldn't be possible. And the drop down is really bad. But that's fine. And if we go to create and we choose task, we should be able to see it here as well. Pepperoni, mushroom. The drop down works here, but we can still select them. So that's awesome. So yeah, I think that's it for today. You can do most of these things through GitHub Actions or Azure DevOps pipelines if you would like to. In my case, I used Azure pipelines to do the linting, the tests, and everything like that. as a pull request validation, and then I ran the deploy steps for development, staging and production in the release when I've merged to main. That worked quite well. I'll drop a link to this repository so you can check it out, but it works quite well, and it's quite nice to have like more information in Jira from other places. When you have a custom field like this, it's possible to do things like, let's see, we can do more, we can do pizza toppings here, and we should be able to do like ID PT001, and if we have one with that ID, which we do here, we have pepperoni here, we can find all the issues that have that ID. We can also do, oh, weird. We can do name eggplant, and we should find that one as well. If we remove that, we add eggplant here, eggplant, we should be able to find both of them. Name eggplant, and we now should be able to find two of them. So that's quite nice. I think that's it for today. It was quite hard to like wrap my head around everything, and I'm not really good at React, so the UI part is usually like my biggest issue when it comes to these things. But it's fun, and it's a good way to be able to modify things in Atlassian Cloud if you need to do that. Well, that's it for today. I hope you learned something if you watched this far. Thank you, and have a great evening or day or wherever you are.